Well, this morning's story was fun to learn, right? The whole thing with the buttons and members of the liberal war room actively admitting and bragging that they planted them at conservative conference to manufacture public outrage and influence the election. Yes, that story was this morning. Well, that story just keeps getting crazier. We are going to dive into all the ins and outs of what happened there and what we're seeing over the course of the past 4 years. It goes back so far because over the past 4 years, if you've been watching the House of Commons, been watching the rhetoric in the media, you've been seeing that direct, desperate link you've seen from the liberals to try so hard to link Poilievre to Trump as best as they possibly can. You remember the quotes of, "You're bringing American-style politics north of the border. It is just so irresponsible." Remember that from Justin Trudeau? Remember those comments coming from the liberal side of the House? Yes. Well, turns out that whole idea of trying to link Poilievre to Trump, well, you guessed it, they stole that from China. And that story is breaking today, and we're going to get into all of it. But first, please like and subscribe. It really means the world. It really helps the show to grow as we continue on this election cycle and we continue to try to expand the voice and show people the other side of the argument and the other side of what they might be seeing from the media. Well, this is what this is all about. Please continue to do so. It really helps the channel. People who have been doing it, you're all awesome. We love you so much. Really appreciate it. Now let's get into the story. So, CSIS warned Beijing would brand conservatives as Trumpian. Now Carney's campaign is doing it. This is the document that they're discussing. But from the Bureau, Mr. Sam Cooper says Canadian intelligence reported in 2021 that Beijing planned to interfere in Canada's next federal election with disinformation suggesting the Conservatives would follow the path of Donald Trump, a narrative now echoed in a clandestine dirty tricks operation exposed inside Prime Minister Mark Carney's campaign. The warning comes from a classified CSIS bulletin dated December 20th, 2021, and marked secret, distributed to Canadian departments including Global Affairs in Canada, the Privy Council Office, the Communications Security Establishment, and Five Eyes intelligence partners. The report was based on information from Chinese consular officials in Canada. According to CSIS assessment, a consulate official in mid-November 2021 discussed how Chinese influence in federal ridings with large Chinese Canadian populations had proven effective and laid out a forward-thinking strategy to shape future electoral outcomes, the official reportedly stated. Ethnic Chinese voters should be told that if the CPC wins a federal election, the Conservative will follow the path of former United States President Donald Trump and ban Chinese students from certain universities or educational programs. This will threaten the future of the voters' children. The consulate official also suggested that during Canada's next federal election, the message would be circulated that the Conservative Party of Canada is critical of the PRC and opposed to individuals from mainland China. The remarks were made shortly after Justin Trudeau's Liberals won a minority government in the fall of 2021. The Bureau's analysis suggests that if Chinese state-linked actors intended to repeat this narrative in 2025 federal campaign, they would find their narrative echoed by the Liberal Party's own war room tactics. Prime Minister Mark Carney this morning acknowledged the wrongdoing inside his campaign, following revelations that Liberal operatives had planted fake political buttons at a major Conservative conference in an effort to smear Poilievre's campaign as a Trump-style threat to Canada. The Liberal Party has attempted to downplay the scandal, calling it an instance of overzealous political operatives getting carried away. But the parallels to Beijing's 2021 disinformation strategy, as outlined in the CSIS bulletin, raised broader concerns over domestic political campaigns echoing or amplifying hostile state narratives. And here we have it, folks. This is what we're seeing from the Liberal Party through and through. We've talked about the connections they've had to China, to the PRC, to the Communist Party of China, all the things that we've been seeing, we've been unraveling and exposing. Thanks to the likes of Sam Cooper, the likes of Andy Lee, and other reporters who've been putting in the work to expose all of this stuff. This is what the Liberal Party of Canada has been doing. They are so intertwined with China, so intertwined with foreign state actors who are trying to manipulate our elections, to manipulate public opinion. And they are stealing and actively taking their suggestions that they were briefed on by CSIS. And they're like, you know what? They might be onto something there. Let's use it in the next election. And that's exactly what we were seeing, and we saw it then get exposed with a button snafu that took place, reported yesterday. That is currently what we're watching here, folks. This party cannot be trusted, and they have to be ousted. And people get upset. Josh, you're so partisan. You're so biased. Yeah. Here's the thing, folks. I've witnessed a party get completely compromised, and they are unashamed that they are compromised by a communist authoritarian regime who puts They're minorities in concentration camps who puts their people underneath the boot of their government. They're taking their orders from that government and they're having an impact here on our country. So yes, this is not about left-wing politics versus right-wing politics. This is literally about authoritarian regime against Canadians fighting for their freedom and wanting to have freedom of thought, freedom of religion, freedom of expression, and freedom to do whatever the heck they want as so long as it doesn't impact or commit crimes of other people. That's all we're fighting for. And that's literally what we are witnessing currently. You see the liberals say how poilievre is aligning with Trump in America. You can say there are things that are problematic about that. Sure, we can have that argument. But at least they're a country that believes in similar things that we believe in. Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, so on and so forth. What does China have in common with us? Absolutely nothing. They hate us. They don't like us. They are actively trying to subvert us through the fentanyl trade. That's how we started getting onto all of this. They're actively trafficking drugs into our country to subvert our democracy. They've actively put on 100% tariffs on our agriculture. Heard nothing. Absolutely nothing. This is currently what we are witnessing. The Liberal Party of Canada is actively stealing and taking intel and strategy from China to influence our elections and attack the Conservatives. The whole Trumpian tactics. Oh, Poilievre's just like Trump. This is where they got it from. This is where they got it from and how our media echoes it and throws it out into the ether. And that's what we're witnessing. This Liberal Party has never cared about Canadians. They're pretending to. They're now wrapping themselves in the flag saying they're all about nationalism. But Andy Lee dropping some serious knowledge and just reminding the people what this party has done over the past little while. 2016, she pulls up some information of a deal that was signed back in 2016. 2016, the Liberal Party of Canada signs a contract with the World Economic Forum to have them serve as a member on the Advisory Council on Economic Growth, which would be the oversight body for a beleaguered Canada infrastructure bank projects. Just a conspiracy though, right? And here is the screenshots of that deal. World Economic Forum, Switzerland, non-public servant travel, stakeholder engagement, contract, Department of Finance Canada. This contract was sole sourced. Council members agreed to a salary of $1. The travel and living expenses will be reimbursed by the government. Additional comments to serve as a member on the Advisory Council on Economic Growth. But it was just a conspiracy theory, right? They have no impact on what we're doing though, right? Got it. Yeah, these are the people that this party is completely and utterly aligned with. Never, ever forget it. China, World Economic Forum, don't worry, it all comes together of what happened last year. Mark Carney addresses ally Zhou Shouchuan at the 2024 Bao Forum. He says, we can't wait another decade for transition plans to become mandatory, and the disgraced Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank can monitor social integrity as he praises China. In this video, we're not going to play the whole thing, but we'll play a little bit of it. And I am going to speed it up just to get us through it. He talks about the green transition, talks about global cooperation, and here is lobbying and advocating for China to get on board with his net zero plans. And this was him pleading for them to get on board with
the decarbonization of heavy emitters. And if that isn't possible, the managed phase out of stranded assets. In response, over 250 GFANZ members are setting out their transition plans this year, and more will follow in an echo of the TCFD process. But given the lateness of the planetary hour, we can't wait another decade for transition plans to become mandatory as we did for climate disclosure. The G20 should act now by mandating transition plans and transition taxonomies for large companies and financial institutions consistent with the GFANZ approach. Encouragingly, the Singapore Asia taxonomy already includes the coal phase-out criteria. The Japanese government has set out guidance. Secretary Yellen's principles for net zero finance are consistent with the GFANZ recommendations. Now, financing the transition will not be feasible in emerging economies without a high degree of financial cooperation to promote blended finance and voluntary carbon markets. Those voluntary carbon markets can provide hundreds of billions of dollars to retire high-emitting assets, prevent new coal generation, and provide finance for biodiversity and indigenous peoples. To fulfill these roles, authorities must establish standards for end-to-end integrity in carbon credits. Authorities can build on valuable work by the ICVCM for supply integrity, the VCMI for demand integrity, and IOSCO for market infrastructure. And the World Bank, the AIIB, and the ADB can help monitor social integrity.
Here he is, laying out the plans of what they want to see happen on a global level with the banking system and how they're going to institute the GFANZ model across the world. And it is really interesting asking the AIIB, the Chinese bank, to monitor social integrity. Fascinating. Social integrity. Making sure everything's taken care of, the people are taken care of, and there's a quality of outcomes and not so much a quality of opportunities. That is the Mark Carney way and Mark Carney approach. But don't worry, folks, don't worry. He did make sure to renounce the citizenships today so that he can say that he's truly Canadian. This is Mark Carney and the consistent smoke screens that you will continue to see. You're seeing all this corruption happening behind the scenes, how they continue to work with authoritarian regimes and trying to impact elections and politics here in this country. And people continue to ask the questions, okay, why do you have multiple passports? Why have you been a part of these different countries? Are you actually on board with Canada? Because you've acted on this whole global level. Why should we trust you? What is going on? Don't worry. Okay, I get it, folks. Okay, I'll renounce my other citizenships. I'm all in on Canada. And here's the messaging. So when you see how tight they are with the CCP, how tight they are with China, how tight they are with members who represent those groups, it makes sense of why Mark Carney addressed the media the way he did today. It makes sense of why his address of what his war room was caught doing was kind of a head scratcher of an answer.
Members of the Liberal War Room, so the Central Campaign, distributed Stop the Steal buttons at a Conservative event. Given the anti-democratic implications of this phrase, how much does this event undermine the trust in the way that the Liberals operate, and what have you done in response to these revelations?
Thanks for the question. Look, this is totally unacceptable, to be absolutely clear. And on behalf of my campaign, I was unaware of this behavior, but on behalf of my campaign, I apologize for it unreservedly. Okay. I've made it absolutely clear to my campaign that this behavior or anything approximating it or in that spirit is unacceptable, cannot happen again.
You could just see it in his head. You see him working, right? I got to make sure I hit all the talking points, make sure I'll say all the things I need to say. Yep, that's all you needed, right? Oh, right, okay, in French now. Like, it's so calculated. There's no sense of remorse on this. It's just, okay, I got to say what I got to say. Our people got caught. We knew we were planning to do this. We've been talking about it since the party's been talking about it for the past 4 years and seeing it as an opportunity. And now that we're starting to do it, we're starting to link poilievre and the Conservatives to Trump. Oh, crap. Okay. Oh, we don't like this. We're not huge fans of it. We're going to deal with it. And this is him dealing with it.
The responsible people for this issue have been reassigned within the campaign.
They're going to be reassigned to the campaign. Don't worry, folks. We're removing them from the war room and we're putting them somewhere else in the campaign. Not firing them, not getting rid of them, not reprimanding them. Just, we're going to put them somewhere else. He doesn't care. They know what they're doing. They know what they're trying to do. And they're using the media. They're using crazy tactics to try and push this agenda to get people to vote for them. They're not running on a platform. They're not running on things that are important to Canadians. No, they're running on anti-Trump. Trump is the Conservatives. Conservatives equals Trump. That's all they're running on. It is quite frankly disgusting, irresponsible, and I'm not going to stand for it, and that's why I'm going to sit here and call it out. He doesn't care. He knows what's going on. He's on board with what was going on. He knew what was happening. I don't care what he has to say. It was from his war room. People he talks to every day. Give me a break. Oh, didn't know about it. Sure, buddy. We'll finish on a light note. We have Main Street polls have come out. People are firing off. Everyone's excited. Oh, look at these polls. Look at this poll. I'm going to continue having the same energy I've had about all the other polls. Is that what the polls are saying? It doesn't matter what the polls say. You keep fighting, you keep moving forward, and you keep trying to change hearts and minds. It doesn't matter what they say. I don't really give a crap about this. I wasn't even going to cover it. However, it does give a little bit of a boost to the Conservative base to continue moving forward and not be completely dejected by the crazy, weird polls we've been seeing. Their questionable methodologies of how they're conducting their polls. But it is what it is. But to end on a very bright note, because Mr. Blanchet came in hot on Mark Carney today, the leader of the Bloc Québécois, getting ready. I think Blanchet is getting ready for his moment to shine in the debates this week. And man, he made sure to light Carney up today in this press briefing.
I believe that Mr. Carney is trying to get a free ride. He got a lot of momentum at the beginning of the campaign, and they tried to hide him as much as possible, which seems to be pretty easy because he seems to be quite preposterous. I believe that Canadians will do the same as Quebecers do, but they will make their own answers about it. It's not mine to interfere in their election. But the campaign, the shortest possible prime minister candidate for the Liberals, as seldom seen as possible, saying as little as possible and hiding as much as possible, including his participation in a so-called green fund, which actually is 50% oil and gas. there's some questions to be asked, and April 16th and April 17th will be quite a party.
He's been saying as little as possible, being seen as little as possible. And April 16th and 17th, we'll be asking those questions, and it'll be quite the party. Couldn't have said it better myself, Mr. Blanchet. Anyways, have yourselves a good one. I'm out.